All right, here we go. Hey, welcome everybody. We are back from DevCon. We've got the three FileMaker Fanatics. They're all on the phone, on the Skype call, and let's start it off. We've got Aaron.
Yes, hello. This is Aaron Schacht. I own Canyon Computer Services, and I've been a database developer for about 25 years, and newer to the FileMaker platform, and loving DevCon, and it's just an exciting new platform to be on. So, working on a few projects with Scott, and he can take it from there.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Aaron. This is Scott Rose of Scott World. Thank you for listening to our podcast. I've been developing in FileMaker Pro since 1992. So, wait, how many years is that?
Hold on, let me get a
23 years. We get a calculator. 23 years.
Wow.
of developing databases. Aaron and I have actually known each other since we were little kids. We grew up with each other, and we both fell in love with databases early on. But Aaron went to the dark side. He went to Microsoft Fox Pro, while I went to FileMaker. And then Microsoft pulled the rug out from under Aaron's feet, and he was because they discontinued Fox Pro. So Aaron was forced to come to the light and be with FileMaker.
Awesome.
That's exactly how it worked out, didn't it?
And
we also have, yes.
And I'm Tony White, Tony White Designs. And all three of us were at DevCon. We'll start with DevCon.
I love it. Well, one thing about DevCon was that me and Aaron got drunk one night.
Okay.
And in honor of that, I want to let you guys know I'm having a glass of wine while we're having this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, and I barely drink, right? Like, because the time with you in DevCon, Aaron, was like the first time I drank in months, maybe.
And I would just say, if you're listening to our podcast, just drink responsibly as you're listening.
Drink responsibly while you podcast, folks. No, but here's the deal. Aaron and I, because it was in Vegas, and so we decided to partake in some of the fine dining while we were there. And I got to tell you, $38 for one scoop of rice that they called, what do they call it, Aaron?
That was their version of risotto. And $38 is quite a bargain.
It's quite a bargain for one scoop.
Because it was one scoop of rice. So
one scoop of rice with a couple mushrooms thrown in.
What a bargain. You could just go win that at the tables, right?
We lost some money at the tables.
You lost?
We lost some money at the tables.
But you're a programmer. You just count the cards.
Exactly.
Just think FileMaker calculations. That'll get you there.
Just work a basic high-low count.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. There you go. Exactly.
All right, so since it's a FileMaker podcast here, so let's start with Aaron. Aaron, you've been to a bunch of DevCons at this point, maybe not all 20. But so what's your background? How many DevCons, and what did you think of this one?
I've been to two DevCons.
And I've seen you at both.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And I liked it in San Antonio quite a bit more than in Las Vegas. I wasn't too pleased with the venue. I wasn't too pleased with the hotel. There are a few good things about it, but I'd say for the most part, San Antonio was a better venue. And developers were kind of forced to coalesce together we were isolated out there at that resort. That was the Marriott, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in San Antonio, you mean?
Yeah, a lot of people like that venue.
Yeah, and it was great. And when you're done going to sessions, you can go on Lazy River. It was pretty nice, or go down a water slide. And so all the developers were always around. You could always talk to people. Great venue. Las Vegas, it's just easy to get lost and to spread out.
It was a big hotel, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big hotel. However, I liked the Las Vegas DevCon more, not because of the venue, but because it seemed that the FileMaker staff and the engineers were more available to talk to developers and to talk to people. They were just seemed to be mingling with people more. That was my impression. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Would that be your assessment as well?
I was disappointed with the Vegas venue for many different reasons. Because one of the main reasons I feel that we all go to DevCon is to mingle with each other. And you get in Vegas and there's a million distractions, not just within the hotel itself, where there's tons of restaurants, tons of bars, tons of, there's gaming and there's all sorts of things. But also once you walk out on the Strip, I mean, you've got roller coasters, you've got shows, you've got Cirque du Soleil. I mean, it's a vacation spot, and you put a bunch of developers in a vacation spot. I don't know, that's probably the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean. And what ends up happening is everyone, they disperse. Even the developers that want to stay in the hotel, it's like there's so many bars to choose from. Like, you don't even know where to go to find people to mingle with them. And then the other problem is I found that during the day, during the sessions, was the signage was really bad. Like, the sessions were split up on 2 levels, maybe 3 levels, and it was hard to find the rooms and the maps. The maps, you couldn't tell what floor the rooms were on, so I always felt like I was lost for the entire week. Like, the map inside the printed brochure was blurry. The map inside the FileMaker DevCon to Go app was blurry, so you couldn't read where the rooms were. And then when you walked out the elevator, right, they had big signs that let you know, like, which things were taking place on that floor only. But the thing is, you still didn't know which direction to go, and it still didn't point you which direction. It was sort of like, it sort of went along with the rest of the hotel experience, where it wasn't a luxury resort hotel. This building, the Cosmopolitan, it started off as condos, and they turned it into a hotel. And it goes to show the people who run the Cosmopolitan, they don't really have great hotel experience. They probably have good condo experience. That's my takeaway.
Well, in condos, at least you have a dresser, right? Where could we put our clothes?
Oh my God, that's right.
other than on some shelf, some closet that was horribly designed, or on the balcony.
It was. What's interesting is it's certainly a big hotel, and the number of attendees they reported, they counted, and it was more than ever before.
But I think it was only by like 10 more than ever before.
What was the final? I thought it was 1,500 or something.
130 or something. Then like the previous record was like 1,520 or 1,501 or something.
Was that a while ago, or when was that?
It might have been a while ago.
So there was definitely, and I think they signed a 2-year contract. I'm just guessing, because we're going back, and probably that means that we can do things a little bit better. Like, we can figure out as a community, which bar we want to hang out in. But it was definitely, to me, the directions were go straight, you'll see a slot machine, turn right. And then go straight, you'll see a slot machine, and turn right. A couple more times, you're back where you got. The signage, they could do the signage a little bit better, that's for sure.
Well, it's so funny. Well, here's the funny thing. There were a few people. A lot of people were complaining about the venue. In fact, and I'll tell you, this is a double part story. This is a 2-part story. Number one is that never before in all the DevCons have I ever been to did I hear the audience boo when they announced next year's venue was going to be the exact same venue as this year's. Yeah. I mean, that was shocking to me, because here we are, we're all on the same team, we're all FileMaker developers, right? And people disliked the venue so much that the entire row behind me was booing when they announced the new that was going to be the same place. And then the second part of this is that there were some other people that were talking to me and Aaron about how they couldn't find the rooms consistently, and they didn't like how the vendors were on one floor and the food was on another floor. It was like, and they were just talking about how they kept getting lost, and no one could remember whether the food was on 3 or 4 and all this stuff. And then there's a janitor that was walking by. He was sweeping up the floor, vacuuming or something, and he overheard us talking, and he stopped and he said, "Hey, you guys. And we're like, "Yeah?" He goes, "It's not you. I've been working here for 6 years and I still can't find my way around."
Oh, that's funny.
Do you remember that, Aaron, when he said that?
Absolutely true, and I was there. I can attest.
I'm actually sort of in a different demographic, and I'm not trying to be kind of the suck-up here. First off, I actually played poker in my first year of college, and I earned my tuition. And I did really good with blackjack, not in the casinos. I mean, this is way off topic, but there is a system for winning at blackjack, although the casinos don't really let you do it. Getting back on topic, all right, so we're going back to Vegas. I think we can make it better with better signage. I was looking at something. I think we should have the DevCon to go have linked to the Compass application built into the iPhone.
The Compass. Does that work indoors?
Yeah, I think that if we use the location function.
Wait, you know what? I want to bring up something else, though. I'm sorry, was that the end of your joke?
It's not a joke, because this is a very serious proposal
okay,
here.
go ahead. No, but I have something very important to say about the DevCon.
We need to geolocate and have the Compass app and have like a 3D D3.js 3D walkthrough of the venue, and then I think we'll be fine.
Well, hey, there you go. Maybe you can program it for him.
I'll
Tony,
get right
this is what I wanted to say. Here's the other thing that we forgot to mention is that so the closing night party was in a nightclub with blasting loud music, and if you were inside, there was no room to move. If you went outside, there was still no room to move, but a little more room to move. And there's like half naked women like throwing fire, and there's people doing weird sorts of like tribal dances inside, and like all that stuff is incredible at Burning Man. But for a FileMaker developers conference, right, where we're all a bunch of nerds.
Well, the loud music part, I'll agree with you. The other stuff,
the loud music
didn't bother.
You like the half naked women with the fire.
More like 10%, but no.
No, that was cool. But the point is, you're right. The loud music. I mean, I had a hoarse voice after that party because it's a
the music. They could have dialed down the music for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, you guys, come on. It's a nightclub. We're FileMaker developers. If you draw the Venn diagram of FileMaker developers who go to nightclubs, like those two Venn diagrams do not overlap. Do you know what I mean?
I think the demographic could have used a little bit of a... I was talking with like a 20-something, one of my friends who's like 20-something, and I said, "What do you think of the music?" And she's like, "Oh, it's fine." Okay.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. We might just be showing our age.
No, it was blasting loud. I heard the music, I could hear the lyrics, I could make out the lyrics just fine. I didn't need quite that much volume.
Yeah.
I've been to all but one of the DevCons. I missed the first one. After that, I just went to every single one. And I'm like I'm the opposite demographic, because to me, I guess maybe I'm not that sophisticated. When I go to these hotels and, the sheets are clean, you can use the bathrooms are, the showers are like really nice and everything's cool, and you throw the towels on the floor, throw some tips on throw a tip on the table and you leave. To me, that's it. I'm done. I'm easy.
Well, Tony, so you're saying you were okay with the venue, you were okay with the hotel, you'd like to go back there?
I spent a lot of time playing poker, blackjack, and, gambling until I kind of gave it up and did other things. So I kind of didn't mind, being in the milieu. But, I was okay. I mean, I definitely see the point that it didn't have, like, the central gathering place that, San Antonio was very popular, and also Phoenix. The place that we went a lot of times over the years, somewhere in Phoenix. I forget what the name.
Oh
yeah,
I love that.
It
was another JW Marriott.
Yeah, and that's had this place where like everybody's all in one place. So it was a little bit more catch as catch can. So here's the positive things, and I've got some strategies for DevCon. Some of them are a little bit crazy, but here's what I do. First off, my DevCon starts with the custom web publishing thing that Joel Shapiro. And by the way, my strategy is to mention as many possible developers on the podcast, so we tell them that, we mention them, and then they have to listen to the podcast. So Joel Shapiro organizes the custom web publishing group, and they had, the 9th year or something like that. They've been doing it quite a while. So that's the first session that I go to in DevCon. And then the first morning, right, they have breakfast from 8 to 9. I actually have breakfast in the room. We went out to Whole Foods. And we did a round.
In Vegas? You went to Whole Foods in Vegas?
We jumped in a cab. We went to Whole Foods. I got some.
They have Whole Foods there? I love Whole Foods.
It's a $10. It's a $10 or $20 cab ride, and I got some avocados, some grapefruits. And
delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So it's kind of crazy, but I have breakfast in the room, and kind of get myself together, and then I go down, and from 8 to 9 I can talk to people, not while they're eating, But I can, between 8 to 9, I can talk to Aaron, like you said, the engineers. I talk to, and just talk to the FileMaker people, talk to our fellow developers, talk to new people. And that's how I kind of find time to talk to people. And, I eat as I'm getting ready,
Tony?
Yeah.
What do you like to talk to the engineers about? I mean, what do you typically bring up with them?
Yeah, what do you bring up? What do you
What's
like
important to you?
That's a great question. Aaron, I am totally jumping in on that question with you.
Scott, you want to go? Scott, you want to go first?
No, I meant I'm going to be the questioner, and you're going to be the answerer.
Okay. All right. So I got a little bit of a shtick that I've been doing for the past couple DevCons. Is for the past 3 years, including this one, right? We produce a handout, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. This year, it was let me read it off the paper. FileMaker 14 Code Objects is ERD. I have a nice color laser printer. I printed 200 copies, and I have some other, handouts that I bring. But that was like the big thing. And when I'm talking to an engineer, this is perfect for them. Like so I went to a session, with the guys who build Go. And, I just go and say hi and hand them a copy. I do have some conversations, about features that I might want to see, an idea. And I always, it's worked. I enjoy giving them a piece of paper that we worked on, which kind of says, hey, we like the platform. We're into the engineering side of it. And then, each engineer is different. Like I talked to Andrew Paulson about, his areas as, I believe, the layout area. Talked to the Go guys who I got to go back and look up their names because I hadn't met them before. Talk about like a mobile feature or whatnot. And I talked to John Thatcher.
Okay.
It was just like one tiny little feature, and it's kind of lobbying, like, hey, this feature would be cool, and it would be not that hard to implement, and it's not kind of going through the formal thing, but you never know how a feature is going to land up in the product,
Yeah.
Andrew Paulson, Scott, you and I talked to Andrew Paulson. He is
awesome.
Oh, he is a great guy, yeah.
He is honest.
I felt like he really listened to us, too.
Oh, my God, I know. Andrew Paulson's so cool. When he was listening to people's questions, he was, like, scribbling down notes from what they were saying. Like, if they were bringing up a feature request or a bug or a question or whatever, he was, like, taking notes. He is a very cool guy. And Frank Liu, the VP of Engineering, man, we met so many cool people. It was incredible. I mean, the engineers at FileMaker, they are so cool.
And then you can kind of get something straight from the source, because finding out, like outside of DevCon, thrashing out an issue can involve a lot of time to write up an email, to post it on community, and, after DevCon, I'm pretty sure the engineers go back and write code,
Yeah.
That's kind of what their focus is like, they're not super accessible once they go back to the shop. They're basically writing C++ code.
It's amazing how so many of the FileMaker engineers they're really steeped in C++ code, and yet they're so personable. Most of them, almost all of them, they're so personable. They're great speakers. They know how to bridge that gap, like 1 foot in the world of they're deep, deep, deep into code, and then the other foot is being social and friendly and cordial and having real-life conversations with us.
Yeah, and listening to feedback, I had the same experience. I was talking with John Thatcher about a feature that I thought would be good in the recovery, the ability to run the recovery feature from a scripted thing and not have it index, because you could do a diagnostic recovery and have it be faster. And I said it, he listened, he was like, you could just kind of tell that he kind of saw the value in that. And I said, maybe not that hard to implement. And he wrote a note on his iPhone. I think he was writing a note on his iPhone, just kind of like note to self, nice feature, not that hard to implement. Maybe we'll see it in a future product, and maybe they'll name it after me.
They're going to call it the Tony White effect.
Hopefully not.
Like in, what's that iMovie effect? The Ken Burns effect.
Ken who? Who's that guy? I never heard him.
Burns? No, you don't know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
know him. He's a
so,
documentarian.
Oh, Speaking of features, Aaron, one of his big issues is he's moving over from Fox Pro to FileMaker Pro, where they used to have input masks in Fox Pro.
Oh, yes.
And there's no input masks in FileMaker. We have to create them ourselves using auto-enter calcs or custom functions.
Yeah, auto-enter, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron, can you explain what input masks are?
Well, input masks, so you could use them to format, to force entry of things like phone numbers, for example. But it goes far beyond that. It could be social security numbers, account codes, or account numbers, anything that needs to be entered in a very specific way. And, we've been going on the forums about this, and the defenders of FileMaker just say, just use calculations or scripting, and, all this stuff has been written,
that was me that said that.
All right, good. Now we have some controversy. Duke it out.
Go on.
But don't get me wrong. I appreciate FileMaker. It's incredibly easy to develop solutions in, much more so than Fox Pro ever was. So I can come up with a solution. I can create an iPhone app. I can do all these things, and I really appreciate that. But coming from a different platform, such as Fox Pro, I just see certain things that they could perhaps add to the product and to make it a lot easier to use. And input masks is one of those things.
So the idea is you set an input mask. Say you want, when someone types in this field, does it literally change the data? Like if you type in a phone number, it'll change the data? Like it'll add parentheses around the area code and then a dash in between the other numbers?
Well, so the parentheses and the dash, or however you define the input mask, so the input mask could be 999-999-999, and so what you would see is two dashes, and you would just enter in the phone number, and it would automatically create the right format for you. Or you could put in parentheses. Really, input masks you could force characters like alphanumeric characters or numeric only, uppercase, lowercase with input masks. So it's extremely flexible.
So
another thing I like. Oh, sorry. What's that, Tony?
No, I was going to say. So you might define the input mask in some kind of regex-like thing where, like pound, 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 where the pound means number, hyphen, which means I guess hyphen.
Precisely.
See, what's so funny is I would feel that FileMaker would say this feature is already built into the system because you have so much more flexibility with that, with custom functions and auto-enter calcs. But what you're saying, Aaron, is actually completely different. What you're saying is it goes beyond that. What you're saying is you actually see the parentheses and the dash ahead of time.
Exactly.
And as you're typing, it's like filling in the blanks almost.
Yes. So it's almost preparing you for how you need to enter the data. And that's what I like about it. And another thing you could do is with an input mask like that, there's another flag, if you will, or a property that you can set, and you can say, I want to store this with those characters in the field, or I just want to store just the number. Wow. I don't want to store the dashes or the parentheses. So you can do it either way.
So there's a new feature we talked about in the podcast recently, which we used to call inline labels, but now we've renamed to placeholder text because Scott Rose pointed out that placeholder text would be better, and so we took it to the committee, and we want to announce right here, right now, that we have a new winner in the contest of Find a Flaw in the FileMaker Forging Code Objects is ERD. And Scott, I'm pleased to announce that you have won. And we have credited you. We have credited you.
Funny. Tony's being funny because they actually FileMaker.
That's true. We changed it. We did a VREV. We did a version 9.
Hilarious.
We made one change, which is your pain in the ass suggestion.
you realize that's what FileMaker calls it, Tony, right? Placeholder text.
Well, they actually, in another place in their marketing material, they called it inline labels.
Is that true?
We took screenshots. We took evidence.
Oh my God!
In case they, because they could pull it from the website,
It's wonderful.
But at some point they called it inline label, and then that's what we saw. That's what we put on, and then we went back because your eagle eyes found it, and now we're calling it. And I think placeholder text is actually a better name for it.
Okay.
So we changed it. So congratulations. I wanted to whatever.
It wasn't a contest. I didn't even care about winning that one.
Well, yeah, Sure, that's what they all say. To Aaron's point, I think there's two kinds of features in FileMaker. The way I look at it is, one is features that the FileMaker Incorporated can add to the product that give you the ability to do something that you couldn't do before. Mm-hmm. And then there's features that they can add to the product that'll make your life easier. But you could have done it before. It would have just taken, you would have had to add an auto-enter calc, clear the little checkbox, maybe write a custom function. So in other words, you could do kind of I think between a placeholder text, if you're in 14, and an auto-enter calculation, probably with a custom function to, keep your code dry, you could do what you say. If they added the feature you mentioned, life would be easier. So it's a good feature. But how does that... So I'm going to be, we want to have a controversial podcast. So I would say...
We do? Is that our new goal, to have a controversial?
I think it is. We talked about this. We're supposed to argue and stuff.
Oh, that's right. Let's start arguing more, you guys.
So this is us arguing. I think that, if I scan a bunch of other features that would give you the ability to do something you could never do before, I would take the contrary position that I would want something that you can't do before, like some feature that empowers you in a new way, and I'm willing to, because I already have the custom functions for phone numbers.
Right. What Tony's saying, right, Tony, what you're saying is you would rather have something brand new that we really can't do with a workaround. But one thing I would like to say is that, since we always love to give tips to our listeners, is that for custom functions, one of the best resources is the briandunning.com website, and he's got dozens of, people submit their own custom functions to his website, and there's dozens and dozens of phone number custom functions and all sorts of other custom functions. I think he's got over 1,500 custom functions on his website. So you don't even need to figure out your own custom functions. You could just download one that works for your needs from his site. I actually usually take one from his site, review it, and slightly tweak it for my needs. I took one of the phone number ones from his site, and then I slightly tweaked it to accommodate for people typing in extensions in phone numbers, and also for people that might be typing in international phone numbers. So I sort of added on to one of the custom functions.
Oh, his function that's pre-written does not handle international numbers?
Well, I'm not sure. There's actually 12 different functions on his site that handle phone numbers, and I'm sure that one of them probably does. I just took one that looked really, really good to me, and then I just expanded on my own.
It's a reasonable starting point. You might want to rewrite them to your coding style to be consistent, or tweak them. We just did one for U.S. phone numbers, which we have a project where they have U.S. phone numbers, and the business rules are it's got to be U.S. phone numbers. There are no international, so in that way it's simpler. And U.S. phone numbers, we trim the leading one because it's U.S., it's superfluous, and then we reformat it. We go with number, hyphen, number, hyphen, and then 4 numbers. And that's the format they wanted. So everything gets whatever they enter, it'll either kick an error message where it'll just, put error and turn the text red. But anyway, Brian Dunning, I'm with you on that. An input mask would be good. Keep it controversial. I'd be like, I don't know, is that better than having the ability to have HTTP post with a custom header?
Wait. Say that. What was that last thing you said?
It's a little bit obscure, but the ability to... You have this insert from URL, which was one of the custom features at DevCon.
I really want to get into that. Mm-hmm. No, I do. No. Because I want to write a Bitcoin file.
Oh, Bitcoin. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge Bitcoin fanatic. If you guys go to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Scotty321, SCOTTY321, you'll see I have a whole bunch of Bitcoin videos. I give Bitcoin speeches around the country. I'm really into Bitcoin. And I want to start integrating Bitcoin with a lot of these Bitcoin exchanges and services that are out there. And you got to do a lot of posting and, post and get and all these things that we couldn't do before, but now we can do with the insert from URL command.
Yeah, and you can do kind of half of them. You can do post, but if you're doing post, the ability to set a custom header, and we were fortunate enough to have a client who asked us to do a integration with Gmail, FileMaker to Gmail.
Oh, cool.
And we same client has been asking us to do a lot of integrations. once you do one, the second's easier than the first. So we're doing a Google Drive integration. And a lot of these integrations rely on a RESTful API. So you're posting and getting and
oh yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to start learning all these RESTful APIs. Can you do them all with the insert from URL script step?
Some you can and some you can't, because first off, the insert from URL, it's kind of interesting in that you would think that what it does is inserts from a URL. You might think that. It turns out it can do more. You can use it to post. With the right syntax, you can use it to post, and that's good news, and that's useful. You can do an HTTP post or an HTTPS post.
Then it returns JSON to you, right? Is that correct?
Typically, the RESTful API will return JSON as a result.
How do you parse it?
Is that XML?
It's a cousin to XML. It's a structured data format. XML is, XML was around first, and then JSON. So XML is a structured data format, where everything is like self-describing and has a neat and orderly structure. And JSON is neat and orderly. It's just a different syntax. It's lighter. It's fewer characters. It's less verbose. And it was invented by Douglas Crockford as a format. It's the native array. I think it's like native to JavaScript, the format, so it can go straight into a web app. But you can bring it down, and then you can parse it. There's some native functions out there that are on Modular FM, or you can parse it with the Base Elements plugin. Those are the two most popular ways.
Seed code has some tool also that you can parse it with, apparently.
The seed code, you can use the plugin, except you can only run the plugin on the desktop.
It's a they have a plugin. It's not like a. It's a plugin, is what you're saying.
Well, let me rephrase that. I'm sure there's a lot of plugins, but the Base Elements plugin is free.
But that also, because the plugin will only work on the desktop. Oh, I guess you could do a server plugin.
Well, yeah, the server side stuff, and but it's a harder thing to crack there because you got to do. That gets into a whole lot of things, but yeah, it doesn't run native on mobile. You could. I'm pretty sure you can do it as on the server side, like you just said, and a perform script on server. But there's places where it won't work, and in those places. Daniel Smith, if I remember that right, wrote a collection of JSON parsing functionality, and he posted it on Modular FM. So that seems to be the place to go. That, I believe, is what the seed code people are using.
I think one of the funniest things, speaking of the Modular FM thing, is when Aaron ran into Todd Geist at DevCon.
Okay.
Do you remember what you said to him, Aaron, that night when you were drunk?
When I said what?
Aaron was joking, right? Aaron was being funny. Aaron said, because Todd Geist came up with Selector Connector. He created that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was kind of, I think that was like a co-invention of a...
Oh, yeah, with the...
But certainly he was... I don't know who the credit was, but Todd was certainly one of the people.
Todd was one of the guys.
And a big shout out to whoever else was involved.
Oh, yeah. With someone else. It was a co-invention.
And good job,
it might have been seed code, perhaps, John Sigler?
I think they were involved. Those guys talk a lot. They're...
Oh, okay. So, yeah, maybe it was between the two of them. So Aaron sees Todd. It was so funny. Aaron was just being funny. Aaron goes, Todd! He goes, Selector Connector. Todd goes, yeah. What about it? And Aaron goes, thanks to you, I'm now using Anchor Buoy.
I didn't realize how much of an insult that was.
And Todd got very upset and walked away. But Aaron was just kidding. Aaron, were you kidding?
I'm a believer in Anchor Buoy. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
I think the Anchor Buoy people and the Selector Connector people can get along.
Everyone
I believe that's right. But listen, I made him mad at me.
Listen.
I don't know if he was mad. Maybe he had to get back to his booth. He had a booth this year.
No, that was after hours. It was after hours. No, but you know what, though? No, they're different philosophies. Everyone's got their own different methodology. And you know what? There's people that don't even use Anchor Buoy. Everyone's got their own methodology. No. And it's about what Bob Shockey said once. It doesn't make a difference what your system is as long as it makes sense to you and as long as you have a system.
You agree with that? Oh, we talked about this a little bit before.
I talked to Bob Shockey, and I don't know if he said that. Did we have him on tape saying that?
He did say that.
He said that. Oh, Tony, he said that.
I think he might have been talking about in general. You know, the selector connector thing is very, very interesting, and we've done very well with Anchor Buoy. It scales like crazy. We have not yet bumped into something that we cannot do with Anchor Buoy. I did watch the selector connector.
I like Anchor Buoy. I like Anchor Buoy also.
And I think the selector connector thing is interesting. I think it's going to be a while. You know, it's relatively new. It's going to be interesting to see what people think of it a year from now. But certainly it's interesting. I haven't yet, and I did watch the videos twice. We're probably going to talk about it at a meeting of the New York FileMaker Pro User Group, and by the way, that's nyfmp.org.
It's a great group. I've never been to a group before where they're all yelling at each other, and it's just considered normal dialogue for New Yorkers.
Yeah, we call it violent agreement.
Unbelievable, right? Right, like 15 years I went to peaceful FM disc meetings in Los Angeles. I lived in New York last year, and I went to my first New York FileMaker meeting and nyfmp.org. And these guys are yelling at each other. Like there's no respect for the speaker. They're talking over each other, they're shouting over each other, and they're all buddies. This is how New Yorkers talk.
And then we go out to dinner.
Then we go out to dinner and spend the whole night with each other.
Buy each other beers.
It was great. It was great because they do these nighttime meetings, and everyone goes out afterwards, and everyone drinks, and we go out for this disgusting GMO, chemical-laden Chinese food. But we're all eating the MSG, so we're all giggling by the end of it.
I go on a 10-day water fast right after.
How many day water fast? What?
No, just kidding.
No, but
it ain't organic where we go usually.
It is not organic. Like you are eating like stuff that's glowing purple with these guys, and you're like, wait a second. I don't think there's anything in nature that grows.
No, actually, last time we went to there's a restaurant that has more. New York is actually pretty good. It's got these oases of organic food. And by the way, this is not medical advice, but often we go to organic restaurants in New York City. It's not so bad.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I think Chicago could probably learn a few things from you.
Me and Aaron both grew up in Chicago.
Selector
Collector. But going back to Selector Connector real quick, I like Todd. He's part of the FM Disc in Los Angeles, and he always pushes the ball forward when it comes to FileMaker. And yet, Selector Collector, for me personally, I'm going to have to spend some more time with it. To me, it makes me a little nervous having everything connected to each other on the graph. Like, Anchor Buoy almost prevents me from making mistakes in my own systems. Because sometimes, it doesn't happen often. I know, when you're as good as me. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the thing, no.
You want me to say it?
Yes.
I'll say, if you're as good as Scott.
Well, you're good as Scott.
Then it sounds more compelling if I say it.
Yeah, there you go. No, I was just being.
I was just kidding, anyhow.
No, but the thing is, actually, Anchor Buoy, because not everything is connected on the graph.
Yeah.
It actually has saved me from my own mistakes in the past because I'm like, wait a second, why can't I get to this? Why can't I get to this relationship this table occurrence I'm trying to get to?
Oh, I see, yeah.
And it's because I didn't start. I wasn't starting in the right. In the right location.
Right.
I wasn't starting in the right.
And if you connect everything, then everything's connected.
Right. Yeah, you almost don't know if you're starting from the right context or not. So in a way, Anchor Buoy has helped me in a way prevent my own mistakes.
So what you're saying is you're not good enough not to use Anchor Buoy.
What I'm saying is hire me if you want the greatest database east of the Mississippi.
East? Oh, okay.
West of Mississippi?
No, I think it'll be interesting to see how I would like to see an analysis done by someone else of Selector Connector, of how it scales in a solution where you go up to like 60 tables in a single file with a lot of interconnections between the table, because according to the Selector Connector, it means that each of those 60 table occurrences, which might range up to 20 to 30 connections, would then be connected and would in aggregate be a monolithic collection of 600 table occurrences. So there might be some scaling issues.
Yeah, it's unmanageable.
But
it's
just so people continue to talk to us, I think that there's going to be a number of circumstances where the selector connector is going to be just the thing that you need, and is a valuable addition to the tool chest of FileMaker Pro developers across the world.
I think that's a great way of putting it. There's no right way or wrong way. It's maybe a combination of ways. Yeah. You know what? You know, someone told us at FileMaker at DevCon. It was one of the longtime speakers and developers. He said, "As in FileMaker, there's 12 ways of doing everything, and all 13 of them are correct."
This is, in other words, a long-time developer who can't count.
Scott, I have a question for you.
Aaron, yes.
So we went to these various booths, the vendor booths. You were looking at, what was that calendar plugin that you were looking at?
Oh, yeah. We were looking at this incredible calendar plugin. It's a PHP thing. It's FileMaker server-based. So Simple was the name of the company. So Simple FileMaker. It's one word. So Simple FileMaker Calendar or something like that. Let me look it up. It's So Simple Calendar. That's what it's called. And it's one word. Oh, it's SoSimpleSoftware.com. And this was incredible. It was so incredibly easy to set up a drag and drop calendar within FileMaker because it uses JavaScript and PHP. And you install just some text files on your FileMaker server machine. And then FileMaker Pro is the client within a web viewer has full drag and drop functionality calendar, just like you would expect in iCal or BusyCal or Google Calendar or Microsoft Outlook. It was just incredible, and I really sort of fell in love with it. What did you think, Aaron? And
I was incredibly impressed, and I was just as impressed with the product as I was with the owner. Who talked to us about
talking to Ken. How do you pronounce it? Ken, and it's Duranzio.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, did you talk with him as well?
Well, he lives in Jersey, and he presented. He ventured and presented at the New York FileMaker Pro user group. You know, we warned him, but he still came and presented. And
was he able to speak over the yelling in the audience?
No, we actually he came prepared. And you know, I always tell people if you're going to present at the New York FileMaker Pro user group, we bring your A game because we sort of have a policy. And I've presented if you present and you just like make an assertion and you're not ready to kind of, back it up with some sort of fact, like this is what I believe, or this, not even what I believe, this is true, and I say so. That doesn't play well in New York City. And, I mean, just, there's the New York developers in general, any one of them will just kind of say like, well, I disagree. And honestly, that's just the way it is. And, the New York developers will thrash an issue out. And I had one of my friends was presenting. I'm not going to mention a name. And that person said, oh, man, you guys were rough. And I'm like, you said something people disagreed with. And, it was a good presentation. But, if you say one thing wrong, it's not like there's no free passes. It doesn't matter. I get called, like, if I do a presentation and I'm wrong, they shred me, It's like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. That's New York. Well, Aaron, what did you think about Ken? Because you said you were really impressed with the owner of So Simple Software. Tell me in your mind what did you love about him?
Well, he was very engaging, and he clearly had passion for his product. He loved his product. He believes in it, and you can just tell when you're talking to someone if they believe in something.
Yep.
And so I really liked his personality. He was low-key. He wasn't really trying to push the product all that much.
Yep.
It really kind of sold itself. And then it also brought up some other questions that I have for you guys. As a newer developer, FileMaker developer, how you feel about plugins and how you feel about these types of products that are being offered at all these different vendor booths. Are these companies going to be around? Are you going to be stuck with a plugin that's not compatible with a newer version of FileMaker? Those are the kinds of things that this brings up for me.
Those are really. These are
do you want to dive in? Do you want? Yeah,
I think we should dive in. I think we should dive in because it's very relevant to the podcast, and I think that those are really excellent questions, and I think that's why a lot of developers, you'll hear them say, "I'm plugin free. I'm plugin free." You know, I don't want to have any plugins, and you know, like that happened with me. You know, there was this great plugin for a while. It was called the Inside Scan plugin. It does a lot of things. You could scan directly from your scanners. The guy really stopped development of it for a while. Then he sort of like started developing again. Then he stopped. Now he's completely discontinued it, even though his website's still up. And you know, and I had a lot of clients using that plugin, and so I had to, you know, scramble and find them new plugins to, you know, make up for the loss of functionality. Because you know, even though the plugin you could still download it from his site and purchase it, there's unfixed bugs in it, you know, there's problems. And so, and he actually emailed me and said he's pretty much done with development on it. And, so that's always the concern, you know, when it comes to plugins. Although, you know, I think with those vendors, a lot of those vendors that you saw at DEF CON, a lot of them were very long time developers, you know, that have been around for decades. And it may be less of a concern. I don't know, Tony. How do you feel about that whole thing?
So yeah, it's a good question. And all right, so plugins. So first off, yeah, there are a lot of vendors who've been around for a long time who seem to have staying power. Mm-hmm. One thing that's interesting is something that's happened in the plugin space is when the Base Elements team, Goya, out of Australia. They, at some point, because they've got the product Base Elements, they decided to do their own plugin called the Base Elements plugin, which is not only free, it's also open source. And to me, that's interesting because it's open source. So when I have clients, and they'll have the same questions like Aaron just mentioned. You know, what about this? What about what about staying power and whatnot? And because the Base Elements plugin is open source, if I was doing a project for you know, Time Warner, let's say. And by the way, call me. Hey, you're in New York. No, just kidding. Or her. Actually, not kidding. The you know, I try and squeeze them in. What am I saying? And they were like, oh, what if the plugin goes, well, hey, it's open source. You know, it's just the plugins are written in either C or C++. They say they recommend C++ because it's easier and sufficient. So that's one thing with the plugins. So you go with a long-term vendor, or if it's a functionality that's in the Base Elements plugin, which is free and open source, and there's a GitHub repository, that's a pretty safe way to go, right? Because if they decide to go out of business, you know, someone can pick it up because the code is there. In terms of the So Simple calendar, is that structured as a plugin, or is that structured as an add-on? I mean, I didn't even get a chance to talk to Ken because I figured I'd see him later and maybe he'd present at the New York group. He demoed version 2. This has got version 3. Yep. So I would, you know, a couple meetings down the road, I would invite him to present again if he's interested.
Well, here's the thing about plugin. Oh, yeah, he is fantastic.
Maybe you guys can fly in.
Oh, yeah, that'd be incredible. Well, here's the thing. He actually, I don't even know if you would actually consider his product a plugin per se, because I think it's just like a bunch of PHP files.
How does he? He's got to lock down the intellectual. Well, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, I actually don't know. You know, we didn't spend enough time with him to get into that level of detail with it. So I got to find out from him. I think one of the best things at DEF CON is going to all the vendor booths and talking to all the people and seeing all the incredible products out there. Like there's that new product also, which is also a plugin. I believe it's no. This is also not a plugin. This is a PHP file, and this is why they have no demo of it, because once they give it to you, it's just a text file basically. Right. It's the MailChimp connector.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
amazing. Those guys were great. Where were they from, Scott?
They were from Amsterdam, I believe.
I think that's right.
I believe they're from Amsterdam. It's FileMaker. They've come up with a way for FileMaker to natively communicate with MailChimp. which is amazing. And I was also talking about my Bitcoin integrations that I want to do, and they were very excited about that. They knew, in Europe they know so much more about Bitcoin than the Americans do here. But by the way, if anyone's listening to this podcast and you're a Bitcoin fanatic like I am, please contact me, Scott Rose at scottworld.com, because I want to come up with a whole series of FileMaker products that are Bitcoin related.
That was a good booth, Scott. These guys were very, very interested in Bitcoin, and they knew quite a bit about it. I was impressed.
I was impressed too.
We stopped by the New York FileMaker Pro user group. We're dipping our toe in the water in terms of doing some MailChimp stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's timely because when I go away to DevCon, I send out an email to people on the list, people to let them know I'm out of town. And this year we did it with MailChimp, where they have this freemium model, where you can get the free or you can get the premium, and so you can send like a ton of emails. I was thinking of using it for the New York FileMaker Pro user group. So we sent out the email, and it was kind of fun because we actually went through we didn't do the integration. We're actually kind of working on that. It's step by step. We've got pieces of it. But we just used the regular user interface to kind of get a first run at it. And, we're looking at the click trackings. We actually have a strategy for these emails. We're going to send the content, but we're going to put a picture of a puppy. Cute dog, in the email, because in order to know if someone opens it, they have to load the images. You know how you get an email and it's like, do you want to load your images or not? So we're going to be right. Tony's going out of town, and click to see the picture of the puppy. And that way it loads the images and it pings the web server and whatnot. What else did we were going to...
I hear a noise.
We'll edit that.
I'm just making sure the microphone's working okay.
Sneeze into the microphone just so we can get a sound check. Maybe not.
But Aaron,
plugin issue. Did we solve that? Did we go over
actually,
that?
No, we've gone off. Done. No, we've gone off on many different tangents, and I think have we come up with an answer to the plugin issue? I think there's a lot of great plugins out there, and I think that. I think these ones that are PHP based, that are just text files, I guess, those you can really never get trapped, right? Because you can find another PHP expert to sort of tweak it for you.
It depends on if you have access to this. It's a tough thing being a person who develops a product. You have to develop. Let's say that you're, the So Simple people or the Seed Code people, and you develop this system, and it takes you just like tens of thousands. It takes you thousands of hours, let's say, and then you want to sell it at $400 or $500 a pop or whatever the price is. If it is just a text file, you're like, uh-oh, because someone might be tempted to steal. So I wonder, there's got to be some way to lock up the IP, to lock up the intellectual property. Did you guys talk about that? I mean, you're not going to get the source code.
I think he said that it was somehow watermarked or something. He did have a demo. I don't know. We didn't go too much in depth.
Yeah.
But in general, Tony, how do you feel about plugins and solutions?
If there's no other way to get it done, or they make the job easier, I like them. And... well, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just because we're talking about calendars and plugins and stuff. Is there a way to create a native calendar in FileMaker without PHP or a plugin and have it work? Have it pretty much as a fully functional calendar.
Well, Seed Code. Well, yeah, it is possible. Seed Code has done it. Right, because they're not even using a plugin at all in their
and
product.
It's native. It's all native FileMaker code.
It's JavaScript code running within a web viewer. So for the drag and drop functionality, but before the web viewer, they also had another solution. David Knight of Angel City Data, they've come up with a calendar solution. I don't know if it was drag and drop capable, but they did all sorts of wild things with colors and pixels and and all these things. I mean, it is possible to do it. It's excuse me. I think it's really tricky. I mean, I think now, with the web viewer and with JavaScript within a web viewer, we have a lot more flexibility. But people have been making scheduling solutions and calendar-looking solutions in FileMaker for a long time. I think people's expectations of calendars are just higher now.
Yeah. The feature set, the expectations for calendaring are super high in that if people want calendaring, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to want calendaring that's visible on the desktop and also on the web. Because calendaring is sort of like, I want to know where I need to be at some remote location, right? Because a lot of calendaring is like, this event is happening at this place, right? So you got to have, the bar is really high. There's a lot of native calendar functionality that you're kind of competing with. You got to be able to look at Google Calendar or iCal or any of the Microsoft Exchange stuff, whatever. And that's what people's expectations are. So I think what we've seen, I'm pretty sure that we've seen the calendars made with native FileMaker functionality are giving way to calendars that are made with web code that resides inside a web viewer.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's also server-based calendars. Like, for example, So Simple is a server-based calendar, and also, we didn't even mention 360works. They have the what is it? Zulu calendar, or what do they call it?
I think Zulu. I think it was Zulu 2. They have a new version, Zulu. Wasn't their latest version 2.0?
Something I don't remember.
And it synchronizes with Office 365, that can be a big thing for people to be able to synchronize with Exchange hosting services and those APIs.
And I think Seed Code and 360, they collaborated on some of the functionality and some of the synchronization functionality.
Oh, interesting.
Yep,
interesting.
That's right. Yep.
So the calendaring space is not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way, because there's a lot of people, work in that space.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot more calls for calendar-based solutions because of the fact that I got a lot of publicity for my Keslo camera scheduling solution, which is featured on FileMaker's website. And when I redo my website soon, there's going to be a video of the Keslo camera solution. And that was a scheduling solution where they keep track of camera rentals coming in and out, and they have a whole calendar that shows them what their quantity is of every piece of equipment on every day. And so because of the publicity that I got with that solution, I've been getting a lot of calls from people who want calendaring and scheduling solutions. So it seems to me, from my point of view, like there really is a pent-up demand for people who are using FileMaker or are thinking about using FileMaker and want calendaring within it. So it seems like that this niche is a growing and a thriving niche. Aaron, how do you feel? Aaron, how do you feel about plugins as a newer developer to the platform?
I'm a little hesitant to use them unless, like Tony said, unless they're absolutely necessary or there's no other solution. I've built my own calendars back in the FoxPro days. Probably took me 500 hours of programming.
But you saved $20.
But I wasn't really aware of any plugins that would work. I was forced to create a solution for a customer. It was a medical office. They needed calendaring. I created it.
Cool.
That's amazing.
But I liked it that it was my own code, that in that sense it was easy to manage. Yeah. After it was built, I could tweak it, and I didn't have to rely on some other plugin developer. So that's why I'm asking you guys these questions about FileMaker, because in terms of Visual FoxPro, it's a totally different animal, but it's the same type of problem that we're dealing with.
Right, it's the same mathematics, the same...
Yes.
Same calendar math as calendar math.
Yes. And you have to deal with leap years, you have to deal with all this stuff. I mean, it's complicated for projects.
Changing. Oh, yeah, it is complicated. Holidays changing and I guess leap years is the big one. And yeah, it is challenging.
But once you solve that in one platform, you could transfer that. And there is, like what Aaron is saying, there's there's a lot to be said for having access to the source code.
Yes.
Because you control your destiny to a great extent. So that is nice.
You know, Aaron, what's so funny is that most of the vendors I saw this year, and I didn't even have time to get to all the vendors because I was spending so much time with each one, but all the vendors that I spent time with, they all seem to have long legs in the FileMaker industry. They did not, they've been with, the FileMaker platform for years and years, sometimes decades. And so it seems like any of the vendors that we saw at DEF CON, it seemed like they might be really good choices, to maybe hang our hat on if necessary.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to hedge your bets, if you're doing work with a plugin, because one of the things that can happen with a plugin is can be supplanted by FileMaker functionality. So I mean, this is a small tip. When we write code, we take whatever plugin we're using, even if it's the base elements plugin, which is free and open source and whatnot, and we'll wrap it in a custom function, so that if FileMaker takes the functionality and makes it native, we can swap it out by just changing the custom function in one place. So you know how you can have a custom function in a file, and it's called from 20, 30, 40 places? Mm-hmm. So we'll put the plugin functionality in a custom function, call it from 40 places, and if we ever need to replace it because it goes native, because we'd always swap out,
that's clever.
If something goes native, we'd always swap for the native functionality just for the simplicity of not having the plugin to install and whatnot.
That's a very clever solution. You actually reminded me when you were just saying that. First of all, it's incredible that the Base Elements plugin is free and open source because it's not dead end, and the functions that are built into that are just freaking amazing. But one thing you also reminded me of is that you just reminded me that we also got stranded with some plugins back in the FileMaker 6 days, where some of the plugin developers did not update their plugins for the new FileMaker 7 architecture. And some of my clients got stuck in FileMaker 6 forever, and because they need to rewrite their entire system because their whole system depended on these plugins.
Right, and the plugin API changes sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So,
those bastards.
It's a tricky question. It's a tricky. It's always about evaluating the pros and the cons, probably.
Did I open up a Pandora's box here?
Probably.
So now I don't know if you guys do have IT clients as well as FileMaker clients. Do you both do IT as well as FileMaker, or do you
used to do IT and FileMaker, and now I'm pretty much out of the IT business, and I just focus on FileMaker now.
Okay.
We do some IT to facilitate FileMaker projects. For instance, if it comes in different flavors. So somebody has a FileMaker server. Today, I was on the phone with someone today, and they were trying to figure out their migration path from 11 to 13. So we'll do IT, for instance, if somebody's machine goes wonky and it's their server machine. We'll help them get up and running, and we'll also do a fair amount of IT shell scripting or PowerShell.
Oh, sure. Okay.
To facilitate like a FileMaker server. Like if the FileMaker server ain't running, we're not going to be doing any FileMaker development. So we certainly want to facilitate that, but not so much beyond that.
Okay.
But Aaron, you do a lot of IT
I have
work.
some IT clients who need my assistance, so I'm going to have to, wrap things up.
All right.
But if you want to continue.
Aaron is one of the best IT guys in Boulder, Colorado. Maybe the only one in Boulder, Colorado. No, Aaron's an excellent IT support technician. I just want to say thanks to all of our listeners who came up to me at DEF CON and told me how much you enjoyed our first 2 episodes. That really meant so much. I'm glad that you enjoyed what we had to say. It was really great to hear from you guys and meet you guys in person.
I didn't realize we had such a fan base until DEF CON. I really did. I did. People from the company are listening to our podcast, Tony, right? And they're yeah. This is incredible.
We got a FileMaker Incorporated. Two of the different Twitter accounts retweeted our podcast, and I talked to. I'm always like to kind of respect the secrecy. FileMaker, being a wholly owned subsidiary of Apple, seems to like to kind of play their cards close to the vest. So I don't like to mention people by name. I can say that there are people at FileMaker who have listened to the podcast and like it. And, I talk to them. I say, we keep it real. We're fanatics about the platform. And they retweeted. So that was great. So that got us out in front of another 4,000 additional people. So that was great. So I would echo what Scott just said. Is it was nice to hear from a surprising number of people who had listened to the whole thing. Steve Delansky, who's a FM Forums, I rode in the car to the airport with, and he's like, "Yeah, I listened to both. I liked it." So that was great to hear.
That's nice. Keep that's so nice of him.
Yeah, easy listening. So I think we're
easy listening. We should have Barry Manilow playing, Tony.
I don't have any Barry Manilow records at the moment. Although I think he actually is a good singer, no doubt.
I actually saw Barry Manilow in Vegas. Not this trip to Vegas, but about 5 or 6 years ago in Vegas. I remember I was with a girlfriend at the time. We were not actually getting along very well during the trip, and but Barry Manilow was such a great concert, it actually brought us back together. We had such a good time at the Barry Manilow concert that all of our differences just faded away into the Copacabana.
One thing, just a planning note here is, and this will be edited. I just want to let you guys know one of the things that every time we post an episode, which is basically only twice so far, but coming up on a third time here, is everybody always asks us where's the RSS feed. And one of the things that I'm going to tell people in a future episode is that, we got since the first episode, we got the YouTube channel up. We have the timestamp links up, which give people the ability to kind of just pick what part they want to go back and listen to again, put it that way. And I'm working on an RSS feed. I'm not in a huge rush for a bunch of reasons. It's a longer conversation. Aaron's got to go, but maybe we'll pick it up another time. I just feel like we should explain to people what we're rolling out and why we're rolling it out. It all takes time, and I'm more happy to have the timestamp links up because I think they're more useful. And I am working on an RSS feed to get onto Stitcher or iTunes or whatever. It's just, it's not as useful as having the timestamp links. And I know a lot of people want to have it feed and jump onto their iPhones and stuff like that. It's just at some point. And there's reasons for all of it, but that's a longer conversation.
Yeah, that's great, but I think we should because some people because a lot of it is habits. Also like people they just launch Stitcher, and if it's not in Stitcher, it doesn't exist. For example.
Well, the interesting thing is, I think in the FileMaker community, I know that people want, and I'm sympathetic because I'm a big consumer of podcasts. I know that people, and actually one guy, one of my friends said to me, I like parts of the episode, but I didn't like other parts. So that's what made me want to have show notes because I think they're really useful. Because if you're looking at like a block of an hour, especially the way our podcasts run, where we're really jumping, there's like things that'll be of interest to one person and things that'll be of interest to a different person. And how do you make the content useful to different demographics? Because I think we're talking to developers, we're talking to new people, we're talking to business owners, we're talking to FileMaker people who work at FileMaker, and so we have like at least 4 different demographics. So how do you take a 1-hour podcast that's a mixture of content from different sources, and how do you make it accessible? Well, you do show notes so people can pick and choose. bookmark so that you can send people a segment that's relevant to them. And you don't get any of that with iTunes. None of it.
Yeah. But with Stitcher, you get show notes at least.
I think
not interactive show notes like what you're talking about.
So we're going to look at that. I mean, so there's kind of a method to our madness. It's not that we're, and I'm just the logistical guy. You guys are the talent. We've already established that. And I did do a preliminary run. Everything, the post-production's all run out of a FileMaker Pro database, and I did write the preliminary code to take the content, which is stored in FileMaker, all the metadata, the name of the podcast, and everything is stored in FileMaker. And I have, I just, wrote out the code to write the XML to the hard drive. So it's mostly done. There's hosting costs. If we get more popular, I got to figure out what we're going to do in hosting. There's things to figure out about the encoding. Is the encoding done optimally? Right now, I'm up on YouTube. The bandwidth is free. We also have the downloads, and I think a lot of people are just doing the downloads. I don't want to kill my web host. I don't want to overload. Bluehost, by the way. A big shout out to Bluehost. Who's an excellent web host. So, all right, here we go to wrap up. So, thanks again to all our listeners, all our friends. And,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
And DEF CON is great in any venue. It's great. Yes, it's just absolutely. In some venues it's better than others, but I think next year is going to be even better because we're going to know our way around DEF CON. We're going to know the difference between the third and the fourth floor, and we're going to figure out.
It's true. Yeah, we still love DEF CON. We still love DEF CON, despite our complaints about.
Absolutely.
And I think a year from now, my ears will have recovered from the loud music at the closing event.
Aaron, do you have anything to say? Aaron, do you have anything to say at the end here?
Well, I just want to echo what you said. DEF CON, although it wasn't the greatest venue in my opinion, I'm taking a lot of valuable material away from it. I learned a lot. I think the sessions, for the most part, were pretty good. And for me, what was key was talking to some of the senior people at FileMaker and talking to the engineers. I just appreciated that part of it very much. And talking to Bill Epling at the party, very open, just open talking to anyone. So I liked that. And so I want to be positive. I want to close on a positive note.
I want to close on a positive note, too, by echoing what Aaron has said and what Tony has said, which is that, one of the greatest things about DEF CON is the access to the FileMaker engineers. They were all so friendly and so kind, and I loved the FileMaker sessions. I went to, I took a different approach this year. I went to almost every FileMaker Incorporated session that I could get to. Now, a lot of times there were like two going on at the same time, so I couldn't go to every single one. But that was sort of my approach this year, and I was super, super impressed with just the deep, deep knowledge that the FileMaker engineers really have about their product, as you would expect them to have, but just their deep knowledge and their deep passion. And the FileMaker Incorporated sessions were just really great, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And like Aaron said, I just really loved the openness of how open everyone was to listen to feedback and chat with us.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was I enjoyed it. It really is a great platform. I mean, look around at the other. It's not perfect. It's really amazing. You look at the other choices, and it's just better. And I really like the people at FileMaker. They're good people, even though they don't do exactly what we ask them to do all the time.
We could save that for another podcast.
Anyway, so it was good. Well, listen, it was good getting back on the phone with you guys.
Yeah, you too. It was great chatting with you guys.
All right, so we'll get this episode out, and we'll talk again soon.
All right.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
All right. Cheers, all. Bye.
Bye.